Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chair. May I welcome the Minister to the Chamber. Minister, put out commencing debate asking for the Minister to provide an update regarding the process from the Department's point of view, how they can forward plan the provision of sufficient places for students with special needs. Minister, it's an issue that I've raised to you several times before. It's an issue of ensuring that we have enough special needs places when it comes to children and students who have special needs. At the moment, the pathway is slightly unclear, and maybe the Minister might clarify how the actual pathway exists itself. We have students who will go to early intervention. HSC will provide that. They might spend 2 or 3 years in the early intervention. Then they come into the actual school setting and they'll be looking for a special needs place in the school. And what's the process, from what I've been informed by parents, is that they apply to multiple schools. And in a rural dynamic, that doesn't make logical sense, or even in an urban dynamic, to have a parent applying to maybe 4, 5, 6 schools, 6 places per school, and then they wait until August to find out where or what school their child has been actually getting access to. I do think there has to be a kind of a way of forward planning this. If we have a situation that the HSC are involved, in particularly at the early intervention stage, and they're 2 or 3 years away from actually having that child going into the actual school setting, that we could have a forward planning network in place, that the provision of the place can be put in place for the school nearest to the actual child. Because at the moment we have children driving in taxis literally 20, 30 miles every morning and back again. It doesn't make logical sense. It really doesn't. So I'm hoping that we can get a plan in place that the children that need the special education, that need access to the services, can get access to the services, and the parents can get it as well. They're looking for clarity. They want to ensure they can get that place, but they want to ensure that when their child is assessed 2 years down, literally at 1 or 2, that in 3 years' time, that child will have a place in the school. I don't think that link is there at the moment, and maybe the Minister might clarify it. Maybe that link is there and it just needs to be worked on a bit more, because that link to me would give so much understanding of the system, but also would work to ensure the parents can have a place for their child. And that's one of the core issues that they're looking for, that place, particularly in their local school. A lot of schools in my part of the world have 6 special needs places attached to it. Some do, some don't, but it's an issue that if there is a need in the locality, we need to be providing that need in at least 2 years in advance of that child entering the actual school setting itself. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Minister.
Yeah, thanks, I'd like to thank the Senator for raising this question. It's an issue which we're working very intensively on at the moment, with a budget of over 1.9 billion for special needs itself in a department budget of 11 billion. So it is quite a substantial injection of money, and when you consider we've got 1,500 SNAs, we've got an additional 950 this year. Our special classes have increased from around less than 500 up to about 1,500 since 2011. So there's been enormous progress, but I do agree with you. What the piece of work we're working on at the moment is how can we do better at pre-planning? How can we do much better at forward planning? And how can we do better in our communication channels with parents? Because it's not right that parents have to go around a number of schools or given a list. So that's something that I brought up with the NCSE at a meeting with them last week. I'll continue to meet with them on that, and also around timing as well, the particular times of year as to when enrolment happens for special needs. So I'm happy to keep you up to date on that. The National Council for Special Education has a statutory function to plan and coordinate the provision of education and support services to children with special educational needs, in consultation with the relevant education partners and the Health Service Executive. This includes the establishment of special class and special school placements in various geographical areas where there is an identified need. In deciding where to establish a special class in an area, the NCSE take account of the current and projected demand and the available school accommodation, both current and planned. The Council ensures that schools in an area can, between them, cater for all children who have been identified as needing special class placements. Since 2011, I gave you that figure already of the increase from 548 to 1,459 this year, to be specific. Provision in special schools has increased from 6,848 placements in 2011 to 7,872 this year. When the NCSE sanctions a special class in a school, the school can apply to the Department for capital funding to reconfigure existing spaces or to construct additional accommodation. Similarly, special schools can apply to the Department for capital funding to accommodate additional placements. Notwithstanding the extent of this investment, issues remain. There are some parts of the country where increases in population and other issues have led to shortages in capacity in the school system. But I do want to assure you, Senator, that this issue has been taken very seriously. The NCSE formally advised that the Minister for Education and Skills that there is insufficient special school and special class capacity in Dublin 15 and in Kildare. And this formal notification was sent to me in the last number of weeks. This letter is a formal activation of a process under the admissions legislation under which ultimately a ministerial direction can be made requiring a school to make additional special education provision available. The NCSE and the Department are actively engaging with education services providers in order to encourage them to address the shortage of places. I am encouraged that to date these efforts have resolved the issue in Kildare and resulted in progress in Dublin 15. Engagement with schools, patron bodies, parents and others is continuing in Dublin 15 to bring the required additional special class and special school placements on stream. The NCSE will keep in regular contact with the parents of the children concerned to advise them of progress and identify placements as they become available. The NCSE and Department of Education officials hosted a briefing session for Oireachtas members in Leinster House on Tuesday last to advise members on the approach being taken. But just once again, Chairman, I want to thank the Senator because we have embarked on a very ambitious journey for special education inclusion and ensuring that special education is the heart of our education system. But like any journey, it's an ongoing and evolving journey, so I'm happy to work with you along the way.
Brief supplementary, Senator.
Yeah, thank you, Carrier. I'd like to thank the Minister for his comprehensive reply regarding the issue. And I think it's about trying to find that pathway so parents can, when they have diagnosis, when they can go to the actual early intervention, that they do have that pathway, that they'll have a place in 2 years' time. And I think that's probably the body of work that's really required. HSE have the information. I'm just concerned that the HSE need to provide that information to the Department of Education, so we can provide in many ways what's required, which is access to their local school. In so many ways, we have it with the school bus system and so many other systems. That's probably where, as you said rightly, Minister, that's where the educational model is built about. You know, inclusive nature, ensuring that we can have that education in our communities and in our parish.
Briefly, Minister.
Yeah, just briefly to put on record of the House as well that we have been working on a pilot, a school inclusion pilot for Kildare and Wicklow and parts of South Dublin, which will involve 75 schools, and it will also involve preschool. So that understanding of need at an early stage is critical, and whatever resources are needed in the aftermath, it has to be done in a comprehensive way. So whether it's speech and language therapy, whether it's occupational therapy, whether it's complex medical need, or whether it's any other range, for example, behavioural support. So this new pilot will be starting this September. There's a budget of 4.75 million for that. We will be looking at that pilot as a potential national rollout, where we're looking at the integration between Department of Children, Department of Health and the Department of Education, and look at how we can more effectively work on that whole inclusion, but what you've raised there today. And it's something that I want to acknowledge the officials in the respective departments. I know at times officials can get a lot of negative about stuff when they go wrong, but in politics it's important to acknowledge that creativity, and there is a creative approach to this school inclusion model that I believe that is going to be very, very positive in the years ahead.
Thank you.